Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurmang amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Well, thank you everyone, especially Mataji and her team, for having me here, organizing this beautiful retreat in this beautiful place. It's really, this place has spirit. And thank you all for joining. The text that we have selected, you have the book with you, Manisha Panchakam. So it's a text of Vedanta, of Advaita Vedanta. And most of us here, by the way, I was just speaking with Mangeshji, and I said, you don't get new people. They're all people I know. They're people from different Vedanta societies across the country here. So most of us here are veteran Vedantins. So we do know what Vedanta is about. But still, once in a while, it's good to take a look, a retrospective look at what exactly is Vedanta. Recently, I was in St. Louis, and revered Swami Chaitananandaji, he gave me this subject. He says once in a while he gives this subject to visiting Swamis. What is Vedanta? And he says it's been wonderful from 1971 onwards, when he's been in this country. He has heard the same subject again and again from different teachers, and new insights, new perspectives. So I thought, what am I going to say to a group of experienced Vedantins when you ask what is Vedanta? And what I did was, I asked myself this question 7 times. I later counted. Ask, what is Vedanta? Give an answer. Ask yourself again, what is Vedanta? Give a different answer. And again, a different answer. I'm not going to go through that, but do look it up. Do look up that particular talk. It's on the Vedanta Society of St. Louis website, YouTube channel. Also on our Vedanta Society of New York YouTube channel. What is Vedanta? One way of understanding Vedanta is to understand what it is not. And there's a very comprehensive way of looking at Vedanta, and we'll speak about that later. But often it's useful to drill down to the core of Advaita Vedanta. And to drill down to the core of Advaita Vedanta, you can ask, what is it not? You see, spiritual life, it depends on how you set up the question. The answer that you'll get, it depends on how you set up the question. One way of looking at the problem of spiritual life is the way we are used to in the different religions of the world, especially the theistic religions of the world. God exists. We do not have faith in God, do not love God, do not worship God, do not surrender to God. That is the problem. And the solution would be to have faith, to have devotion and love and surrender. So this structure, this is easily recognizable as the bhakti approach, the devotional approach, the faith-based approach. It starts with faith. You cannot enter a devotional approach to religion with questions and skepticism. You must enter it with some degree of faith. That's one way of looking at it. But when you come to, say, another approach, see, that is such a predominant approach, the approach of faith, that in most religions across the world, that is taken to be religion. In fact, in the United States, here, in the Western world, the word for religion is what? Faith. Faith. And yet it's not an appropriate word. If you come to something like Advaita Vedanta, come to something like yoga, for example, it's not quite faith. So there are other paradigms of religion. There are other ways, entirely different ways of looking at spirituality. Another way is, no, not faith, but experience. Swami Vivekananda, when he came here, one reason why his message was so powerful, he said to a world, to the Western world, which was used to thinking of religion as faith, as believing in something, he said, It is not believing in something. Religion is not believing, it's realization. Religion is realization. Religion is experience. If there is a God, I must see God. If I have an immortal soul, I must feel it. So he is speaking of the language of experience. What kind of experience? The yogi tells you, the Patanjali yogi, the yogi tells you that not faith, but here are a certain set of psychophysical exercises which if you go through, if you pursue it, you will actually experience for yourself the truth of these claims. So you will actually see, within quotes, that there is some truth to the claim about God or an immortal soul, that we are not the body and mind. This will be revealed to you in experience. So that's the language of experience. And that sort of became a paradigm for the New Age movement. In fact, the New Thought and the New Age movement actually experiencing it in life. Not something just to believe in something, not just to assent to something. That's the language of experience. But even that is not Advaita Vedanta. Many people do not distinguish between the yogic approach, the experience approach, and Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta is something different. There is a third approach, and it's so subtle that people often do not distinguish between the yogic approach and the jnana approach or the Advaita approach. Jnana approach means the approach of knowledge, of insight. You see, what is the problem with the devotional approach, if you will? If you're going to find fault, if you're going to find problems, the problem will be it's difficult in this age of Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Daniel Dennett and the militant atheists to have unshaken faith just like that. Some people are blessed with it, but often if it is attacked, the house of faith proves to be shaky. Under the hammer blows of modern criticism, of scientific criticism, of materialist reductionism, the whole apparatus, the structure of faith seems to be shaky and a little difficult to defend. Against that you can say, what about the yogic approach? You can actually experience these things. But there also you can attack it. Oh, you are having this, what is this experience you're speaking about in yoga? It is extraordinary experience, not this ordinary experience which we are having. It is mystical experience. You know, you have visions. The mystics of religions all over the world, they have had this experience. But the problem with that, if you're going to find fault, the problem with that is, today a neuroscientist might say that, oh, no, you're not seeing God or you're not experiencing universal oneness. It's just a mild stroke on the left hemisphere of your brain or something, and that's why you are having these experiences. But it does not prove anything at all. You just feel like that, or you feel one with the universe, or you are having a vision of God or angels or light. We can have the same thing. If you take a particular drug, you can have the same experience. If you have a little blood clot in your brain, you can maybe have the same experience. So does it really prove you are one with the universe? Does it really prove that there is a universal spirit? No, it may not be so. So how do you answer that? There is this third approach, and now we are coming to what we are going to study, what we are going to investigate. This approach is experience, but it's a knowledge-based approach, not extraordinary experience, not faith. You are not asked to believe in anything in Advaita Vedanta. In fact, you must not. You must question and try to understand. I often give the example of signing up for a course maybe in the University of Arizona, and you go to a physics class or a math class, and if the professor says, did you get it? And you say, sir, you are great, I believe you. The professor will tear his or her hair, and you don't have to believe me, you have to get it, I want you to understand. So it's not a question of believing something. It's not also a question of extraordinary experience. This is something to be understood. When we will see this text or any Advaitic text, the experience that Advaita uses, that Jnana uses, this path we are going to talk about, is commonplace experience which everybody has. What is the experience they will use? You will see. The experience of being awake, which most of us presumably you are. And before before you transition to other rarefied states of experience. I will bring it to your close, don't worry. Experience of being awake, experience of indeed, yes, even falling asleep, the experience of dreaming. Advaita does not ask us to go into those states. You must not fall asleep and start dreaming or sound sleep, you can sleep, but don't make the sound. So, common experience, the experience of being you're seeing, and there are things which you see. You're hearing right now, and you're hearing what I'm speaking. There's common experience of seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching, of thinking. There's experience of waking, dreaming, deep sleep. There's experience of being embodied. So common experiences which all of us have. Just the experience of being a sentient, aware being. Just that experience. The most common experience everybody has. All of us share it. Then what does Advaita do? It takes that experience and then draws our attention to something which we did not see earlier. Sri Ramakrishna told this wonderful story. It will be good to keep in mind. It's really applicable to our situation. He said that this washerman, and that takes some explanation. In India, those who are from India, you know. But those of us who are not from India, you will not know. There are still, a clothes washer is not a machine. It's a man, typically, who will come to your house and pick up your laundry and take it. Usually, the person will take it to a river bed, to the bank of a river, and then you don't want to see what he does to your expensive clothes. He washes them very, very thoroughly, but he gets it very clean. Now this washerman, one of our Swamis, he was in the 1980s, 70s, 80s, he was saying he was alarmed. He went to India to our monastery and he asked for a nail cutter. And he was telling us, the next day I got the nail cutter. What is the nail cutter? This rather fierce looking character with a knife. He asked, what do you want? He's banging on my door early in the morning. You asked for me. No, I didn't. I am the nail cutter. So just like that, the washerman, he takes your clothes and he washes them there. This washerman, he found a diamond, but he didn't know what it was. He thought it was just a peculiar rock, and he used to scrub the clothes with it. He didn't know how valuable it was. But one day, he thought, it's not like other rocks. Let me ask my friend, the vegetable seller, who might know, who is wiser than me more. And so he goes to the vegetable seller, and the vegetable seller says, this seems valuable. I can give you a bag of brinjals for it, or some vegetables for it. I can trade you. Luckily, that washerman did not agree to that trade. He went higher up the food chain. And finally, he comes to this diamond merchant, who recognizes the rock for what it is, the biggest diamond he has ever seen. And he says, this is a magnificent stone, it's a magnificent diamond. I will give you 10 lakh rupees for it, 10 million rupees for it. That which was more money than the poor washerman could have ever imagined in his life. And so all his wants were removed, and now he becomes this very rich person. So whatever poverty he had is removed. Now that's a story about spiritual life. See, he had the diamond all through, but he didn't know what he had. We have the diamond, which can remove all our wants. We have it right now. And we are aware of it. We are using it. But we do not know how valuable it is. We do not know its true depth. We will see, like that washerman, when we come to Shankaracharya, who's like the diamond merchant, he will show us the diamond that we have in our possession. Over the next 2 days, we will see. So, we are using this diamond, which we have. What is this diamond? We are using, how are we using it? Right now, we are using it to see me. You're using it to think and to talk and to be curious. What is he talking about? We are using that. Shankaracharya will point it out to us. So we already have it. it needs to be pointed out to us. So that pointing out, that insight into what already exists, that is Advaita Vedanta. I would like to put it this way. If you ask what is Advaita Vedanta, the spiritual journey in any path, it's a spiritual journey. The very fact that you say a path, it means it's a spiritual journey. But what kind of a journey is it? It's not a journey in space. Many of us, we have come from different parts of this vast and beautiful land. Some have come from Canada. We journeyed in space. Advaita Vedanta is not a journey in space. It's not a journey to the holy city of Benares or Mecca or Jerusalem. It's not a journey from here to heaven, to Vaikuntha, the abode of Vishnu, or to the pure land of the Buddha. It's not a journey from one place to another. Sometimes you see when you're coming across there's a big board, heaven is a place. Okay, which means this is not heaven. That is heaven. It's not a journey like that, not from one place to another. What Advaita Vedanta is going to talk about, what they're going to point out, is present right here. It's everywhere, it's right here. It's not a journey in time. Sometimes spiritual journey is put forward as a journey in time. Not now, but after the coming of the prophet or the Messiah or the avatar, after the coming of the next Kalki avatar. In Hinduism we have this avatar, in Christianity the coming of the of Jesus again, the second coming. Wait in time, or wait after death. Look at the words after. After means time. It's a time word. Advaita Vedanta is not a journey in time, that after something, after samadhi. He says, Swami, at least enlightenment, after enlightenment. Oh, no. Advaita Vedanta doesn't say it will happen to us after enlightenment. Enlightenment is only enlightenment. It reveals what already exists. We'll just see, oh, it was here all along, and I didn't see it. So it's not a journey in time, it's not a journey in space, it's not even a journey from yourself to something else. There is God, and I will realize God, find God, see God. Not even that. It is you yourself, it is I myself, our own inner reality. Not from one place to another, not from one time to another time, not even from one object to, not even from yourself to something else. It's right here, right now, and it is ourselves. Then what is the path? What is the journey in Advaita Vedanta? It is a journey from ignorance to knowledge. Ajnana in Sanskrit means ignorance. Jnana means knowledge. From not knowing, not realizing, not seeing, to knowing, realizing, seeing. Now some of you looking puzzled. Remember, what I'm doing here is drilling down to the essential core of Advaita Vedanta. I'm not knocking or criticizing, what's the word used here? Dissing. Devotion or meditation, or traditional religion, not at all. Not at all. All of them have their place, and we'll see what role they play. But we are taking a particular paradigm here. Let's just remember, for the next 2.5 days, we are trying to take the paradigm of Advaita Vedanta. There are advantages to this paradigm. If I want to advertise this, the advantages, one would be it's very direct. It points to something here and now and all the time. It is also, don't mistake me at all, but I must say it, it's also effortless. And now there's a lot of smiles around. But don't misunderstand me. There can be a lot of effort involved. There's a lot of effort at other things which are peripheral, which surround this spiritual quest. But the enlightenment which they speak about is effortless as you yourself are effortless. What work do you have to put to be yourself? You are yourself, whatever you do. So this is the core idea of Advaita Vedanta. What is the point of all of this? Advaita Vedanta, in common with all other spiritual paths, at least the Indian paradigm of spirituality, is to overcome suffering. Dukkha nivritti. Overcome suffering. The Buddha's quest, when he started off on his quest, is there is suffering. Is there a solution to suffering? Is there an escape from suffering? One of the ancient texts, Sarvadarshana Sangraha, 600 years ago in India, which is a collection of different Indian spiritual paths. It says that these spiritual seekers, teachers, they are like doctors. Chikitsaka iva. There are many doctors here. What do? They identify the symptoms and the disease. Then they look for a cause of the disease, and they see whether the cause can be removed or not. Is it curable, incurable? And they find it's removable, there's a cure to it, and there is a treatment, a process of treatment. So like the Buddha, the disease is suffering. First noble truth, all is suffering. And the disease has a cause. He says, second noble truth, desire is the cause. And the disease has a cure, there's an escape from suffering. Nirvana is possible. Heinrich Zimmer, a famous Indologist and philosopher, he said, contrary to appearances, the philosophies of India are positive. They are optimistic. They're not pessimistic. What is pessimistic? When you say all is suffering and that's it. It is positive. Because all of these philosophies of India, except the materialists, the Charvaka, all the other teachings, whether Hindu or Buddhist or Jain or whatever, all of them say a solution to suffering is possible. There is an escape from suffering. There is a transcendence of limitation and suffering and misery. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is fulfillment. Ananda Prapti. Our very nature is bliss, and how do I realize that and benefit from that? How do I get the full benefit of the diamond? That's the whole purpose. So having said that, let me quickly come to, give me a 10-minute warning and a 5-minute warning, right? When we, though we are in quest of the timeless, we still have to operate within the bounds of the temporal, time and space. Yeah. So, Advaita Vedanta, we know, if you ask the question, what is Advaita Vedanta? Textually, the fundamentals of Advaita Vedanta are in the Upanishads. The texts called the Upanishads. In fact, the definition of Vedanta is Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. Vedanta is the source of spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads. So these are texts found in the Vedas, the holy books of the Hindus. Now, based on these Upanishads, Sri Krishna taught Arjuna the famous text Bhagavad-Gita. In fact, one text, if you want to take from the Vedanta tradition or the Hindu tradition, if you ask for one book, it is the Bhagavad-Gita. But many people do not know. Sri Krishna was liberally borrowing from the Upanishads. Sometimes the exact verses are there, the mantras in the Bhagavad-Gita. So the second pillar of Advaita Vedanta is the Bhagavad-Gita. And there's one more called the Brahma Sutras, which is a philosophical investigation into the teachings, a systematization, if you will, of the Upanishads. So this tripod, this is called in Sanskrit Prasthanatraya, the triple foundation or the triple canon of Vedanta. But there are many, many other texts. Shankaracharya, who wrote commentaries on these major texts, but he also wrote a number of independent works. Prakaranas. Prakaranas are introductory works, smaller works, which sum up the essence of Vedanta. One of them is the book which you have, the Manisha Panchakam. Very quickly, the background, the story, and then I will be done. The story goes like this. Adi Shankaracharya, about 1400 years ago, the great teacher of, I'm not saying founder, because he is not the founder of Advaita Vedanta. He is what is called Bhashyakara, the great commentator on the Upanishads and the Bhagavad-Gita and the Brahma Sutras. He, with a group of his disciples, was in the holy city of Banaras, Kashi, and after a holy dip in the holy river Ganga, he is walking down the narrow, and believe you me, they are narrow lanes of Banaras, when the road is blocked on the other side by a Chandala, a member of one of the lowest castes. It was a very rigid caste system in India in those days. And so this person comes of fearsome aspect. He's tall and powerfully built with matted hair, grimy looking. Now there are different versions of the story. In one, he has got a group of dogs, which are again considered unclean by upper caste Brahmins. Or in another version of the story, he's carrying a load of meat which would be repulsive to the purely vegetarian Shankara, who was before becoming a monk, a high caste Brahmin from Kerala. Whatever it is, Shankara reacts like one would expect from somebody of his class in India in those days. He says, "Move out, get thee away from me." So move out, gacha in Sanskrit, gacha, away from me. And this Chandala, this fearsome person blocking the road, he, in most eloquent Sanskrit, he bursts out with a challenge to Shankara. So there are two verses which are not part of the Manisha Panchakam, but they are introductions to the Manisha Panchakam. So I'll just read out these two verses quickly. What does the Chandala say? He says, Annamaya Annamayam Athava Chaitanyam Eva Chaitanya Dvijavara Duri Kattum Vanchasi Kimbruhi Gacha Gacheti. O most noble of Brahmins. Though it's not quite appropriate to call Shankara that, because after becoming a monk you don't remain a Brahmin or a member of any other caste. But anyway, he does come from a Brahmin, and he is being very casteist by telling the Chandala to move away. So that in that sense it's appropriate to be challenged. He says, Dvija, the word Dvija means twice born. Born again. I saw this cartoon, born again Christian. So born again Christian confronts a Hindu and says, "I'm a born again Christian." And Hindu looks puzzled and he says, "Yes, but I'm a born again and again and again and again and again." Not quite in that sense born again. But the sense in which a Christian might say born again Christian, that's actually a sense in which Dvija is twice born. For the first birth is a physical birth, but the second birth is a cultural, educational, spiritual birth. The second birth is when the sacred thread is given and the child is ready for Vedic studies. So second birth, Upanayana, the sacred thread ceremony is performed. Dvija. And when the child studies the Vedas and becomes a master of this sacred lore, this person is called Vipra. Same. The word Dvija, Vipra and Brahmin, they all mean the same thing, but there are shades of difference. Dvija, the Sanskrit word literally means twice born. Vipra means wise. Vipra. If you write in English, V-I-P-R-A. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, we find it in many Vedanta societies. The truth is one and the wise speak of it differently. The wise means here, the same Brahmin is a person who has not only got the sacred thread but also studied the Vedas, now has mastered the sacred lore, the teachings. And the same Brahmin, when the person gets enlightenment, realizes one's nature as Brahman. So the real meaning, the essential meaning, the highest meaning of Brahmin is a person who has got Brahma Jnana, has become enlightened. Normally we say Brahmin is a Brahmin by birth, by caste, but the real meaning is Brahmagya, the knower of Brahman. And that's how it's used in many of the Upanishads and in the Gita. So Brahmin, so three meanings, the same thing. Brahmin, when they get the sacred thread, Dvija, twice born. You're born into spiritual life or religious life. Finish your course of studies, Vipra, the wise. And finally, enlightened one, Brahmin, a true Brahmin. Anyway, so this Chandala challenges him. O most noble among the twice born, what do you want to what are you saying, get away, what should get away from what? This body from that body? Because both bodies are bodies. They're made of flesh and blood and bones and all sorts of unmentionable gooey stuff, Just because it's a nice packaging, a cover, skin, the truth is that it's pretty nasty. Your body and my body too. So you're saying this body should move away from the body. The word he uses is annamaya. Annamaya means a modification of food. What we eat and drink, it becomes this. Or, here he displays a knowledge of Shankara's philosophy. Are you saying consciousness should move away from consciousness? How is that possible? In your philosophy, O Shankara, isn't it one consciousness? You speak about one indivisible spiritual consciousness, one existence, consciousness, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. How can that be divided? I remember long ago in one of our ashrams in India, the Swami had, I was a junior monk. Now, it had many little branches. One of the branches is where little children study. The children from poor families, they get like a Sunday school, and many things are there. They learn sports, and so that runs on, all of these run on donations. So a rich person came and he wanted to donate a certain amount of money, and he wanted a plaque to be put up in the name of his father and mother, which said, he gave what is to be said there. He said, in the glory of Sri Ramakrishna, who has come as a part of that indivisible existence, consciousness, bliss. Now look at the contradiction. Part of indivisible. In Bengali, Akhanda Satchidananda Khanda Swarupai. Now the Swami, he flew into a rage. He said, no, I will not allow the indivisible to be divided. And how we knew, he started calling the young Swamis. I don't know, he was doing it in fun or whatever, but he seemed pretty serious. What is your opinion? He asked me, and he asked some others. Now the Swami, who was in charge of that little center where the kids were being taught, who would have received the donation for that center, he was standing outside with a worried look. He was saying, I'm not really worried about the indivisible spirit Brahman, but I don't want the donation to be divided. How can consciousness move away from consciousness? How are we doing for time? We got time. And then he goes on. So what are you saying? King bruhi gaccha gaccha iti. What are you saying that move away, move away? And then you can imagine Shankara and his disciples, they stand stunned to be confronted with this philosophical challenge from the most unexpected source. And then the Chandala, he expounds further. The next verse is pretty deep. But this is not part of the Manisha Panchakam itself, but this is the introduction. Kim Gangambuni Bimbite Ambaramano Chandalavati Paya Purevantaramasti Kanchana Ghati Mritkumbhayorvambare Pratyagvastuni Nistaranga Sahajananda Avabodhambudhau Viproyam Swapachoyam Ityapi Mahan Koyam Vibheda Brahma. Very technical, very deep. In fact, all of Advaita Vedanta is poured into it and showing Shankara that he knows Shankara's philosophy backwards and forwards. And he says that infinite ocean, limitless ocean, ocean of what? Not of water. Ananda avabodha. Avabodha means consciousness. Literally it means understanding, but consciousness, awareness. And ananda, blissful awareness. Bliss and awareness and limitless. And nistaranga, without waves. Ocean has waves. This is no waves. It's an unchanging, limitless expanse of consciousness and bliss. Oh really? How nice. Where is that? Pratyag vastu, it's inside you. It is you, the inner self, the one which we experience as I, this one inside. Pratyag vastu. In that inner existence, in inner being, our inner being, which is like an infinite expanse of a waveless ocean of consciousness and bliss. What difference is there between a noble Brahmin like you and a Chandala like me? The literal word here is Shwapacha, dog eater. So that person would be looked down in India and America also, because nobody loves the dogs more than, especially in Manhattan, I see everybody. So, but like a Chandala like me and a high class Brahmin like you, what difference is there from that perspective? Koyam vivheda brahma. Not only is difference is there, where is this delusion of difference coming in you? Then he gives two examples. The sun, here standing for that infinite expanse of consciousness and bliss. The sun, the example. The sun in the sky, when it is reflected in the holy waters of the Ganga water flowing in Benares, or the same sun reflected in the ditch water in the slum where I live. He lives in a slum. What difference does it make to the sun itself? Yeah. So what is the water of the Ganga? It's the body and the mind. You may think that you're a very pure person, a holy person, worshipped, revered and worshipped, and you might think that I am a low caste person, despised and looked down upon. But in both of us, that inner self, which is an unbroken expanse of consciousness, unlimited expanse of consciousness and bliss, that is exactly the same. Just like the sun reflected in water. Does not matter what kind of water it is. The pure water of the Ganga does not make the sun any purer. The dirty water of the ditch does not make the sun dirty. So the reality, your reality and my reality are exactly the same. It is no difference whether it is in this body and mind or that body and mind. The one example. The second example he gives is space. The space in a golden pot and the space in a clay pot. As far as space is concerned, it's the same space. The space in a golden pot does not become golden. The space in a clay pot does not become earthy or muddy. It does not even matter what you use the pot for. You can store Ganga water, the holy water of the Ganga, in the golden pot. You can use the clay pot as a spittoon or something like that. And so one you would consider dirty, another one considered to be holy and used for a religious function. But in both cases, the space which they occupy, that space is not affected at all. Space in the pot, but there's actually no space in the pot. It's the pot is in space. You see, there's a glass of water here. Now, when I move the glass of water, is the water moving with the glass? Yes. Don't seem to be too sure. Yes. Obviously, when I say bring me a glass of water, it would make a big mess if you brought the glass and the water stayed behind. But consider this. Half of the glass is empty. The proverbial half empty or half full. Half of the glass is empty. So let's say we just forget the air for the time being. We just say the space in that glass. So is the space moving with the glass? It would certainly appear so. When I'm moving the glass, the water is certainly moving. And the space? People are even less sure. Some are saying, yeah, it's moving. Somebody actually quarreled with me. That, no, the space is moving with the glass. It looks like that. See, the space is moving. Obviously not. The glass is moving through space. Yeah. So the space is absolutely unaffected. It is far subtler than the pot, the golden pot or the clay pot. The space is completely unaffected by the nature of the pot. What does that mean? Just like the sun and the water example, the space and pot example, the pot stands for the body and the mind, the body-mind complex. And space stands for this infinite ocean of existence consciousness is talking about. That is not at all affected, just as no matter what the nature of the pot, it does not affect the space. No matter what the nature of the body and mind, it does not affect that existence consciousness, that consciousness bliss. So good for that. What about me? You are that consciousness bliss. Oh Shankara, what you are, that I am. This is what he says. So this is the introduction. It's like a challenge to Shankaracharya. And Shankaracharya responds to this by immediately he composes 5 verses. Panchakam, the word Panchakam means group of 5. Panchakam, 5 verses on Manisha. Manisha, it literally means that, if you derive it in Sanskrit, it will mean that which is the lord of the mind. Mana is mind. Manit means the lord of the mind. Lord of the mind is buddhi, vijnana, or intellect. So mind, and the one which rules over the mind is intellect. And Manisha means that which belongs to the intellect. Basically, what does he mean? What belongs to the intellect? Wisdom, knowledge, jnana. In Sanskrit, jnana. Manisha means wisdom or spiritual knowledge, spiritual insight. Manisha Panchakam, 5 verses on spiritual insight. That's the meaning. And Shankaracharya composes this, and in some of the verses he ends with Chandalo astu dvijo astuva guru ityesha manisha mama. Let this person who has got knowledge like this, that I am Brahman, I am existence, consciousness, bliss, the one who has actually realized this, that person, let it be whatever, let that person be a Brahmin, let that person be a Chandala, clay pot, golden pot, whatever it is. This person is my guru. This person is my spiritual master. And he bows down to the Chandala. And there are variations on the story. One variation is that Varanasi is the city of Lord Viswanath, Shiva in the form of Viswanath. So Lord Viswanath or Shiva has come in the form of the Chandala to teach Shankaracharya an application of Vedantic insight. How do you manifest it in life? Not just read about it, not just argue about it, but actually apply it, see the sameness, the same divinity everywhere. So this is the background, and we will see what Shankaracharya has done is, in the 5 verses, he has poured the entire essence of Advaita Vedanta. Now when we go through these verses, how are we doing for time?
Okay, then 20 minutes.
Oh, 20 minutes. I think they're stretching.
It's not space, it's time.
We are going beyond space and time. Yes. So what do we do with this teaching? Here is the approach. In Advaita Vedanta, the approach, what you do with the teaching is, we all know, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Literally hearing, thinking, and meditating. But if you go closer, take a closer look, what do you do with this? Hearing literally means not just listening, of course, but understanding what the teaching is. Let me simplify it even more. Ask yourself 3 questions. That what the teaching was, do I know what the teaching was? If somebody asks me, okay, this was the class, you went to the class and you're out of the class now, what did you hear? Can I give a fair summary? Or will you say, I dozed off, I really don't know. I'll look at the recording later on. Then the first stage is not complete. The first stage is complete when I can repeat to my own satisfaction. In the classical schools of Vedanta, they would ask everybody to memorize. Don't look so scared, I won't do that. They would ask you to memorize the original verses. But so that you can at least say, I know what the teaching is. And I've read it. Here is the teaching. That's the foundation. So that is the first stage. The first stage is complete when I can say, this, I can summarize the teaching. This is what they said. This is what he said. Or this is what the text said. 1. Then what's the problem? The problem comes next is, I know what you said, I know what the book says, but I don't get it. I have some problems. I have some questions. I am not convinced. It's not enough to say, I am not convinced. You also have to say, why are you not convinced? You have to pin down your problem. Which part of it is difficult? So the second stage comes when you mananam, which is thinking about it, reasoning about it, arguing about it. That's why we have the satsang sessions. You can ask the questions there. Ask the question, write it down, I'll pick it up and I'll answer it, and I'll also interact with you to follow up. Don't be too eager. When is he going to get to my question, my question? Often you will see the person who asks the question, it might be a question in many people's minds. And sometimes the answer, if you're quietly sitting in a corner and listening, the answer might work for you rather than for the person I'm addressing directly. So the questions are questions everybody has. So this is the second stage. where I can say at the end of the second stage is complete when I can claim I have not only heard what the teaching says, I can tell you what the teaching is, and now I get it. In the first stage, I know what the teaching is, but I don't get it. I'm not convinced. I'm not persuaded. Second stage is, I am convinced. I get it. Then what remains? I get it, but it feels intellectual. I feel that I've learned a clever philosophy, but my life is not transformed. You claimed, you pushed this philosophy with the claim that my suffering would be transcended, that I would get peace and satisfaction, fulfillment. I haven't got that yet. I'll take you to consumer court. So that is the third stage, nididhyasana, where this problem that, technically it is called contrary tendencies. We'll come to that later. Viparita bhavana, that is contrary tendencies. That I know what the teaching is, I am convinced about it, but I don't see it in my life. How do you address that? That's the third stage. Third stage is this meditation, nididhyasana. We'll speak about it briefly. And after which I should be able to say, not only do I know the teaching, not only am I convinced about it, it's real for me. There's still something remaining to be done after that, but it's real for me. So these are the three stages. This is what we will do with the teachings. As we go through it tomorrow and day after, listen carefully so that I can say, yeah, I know what you said, Swami. Second, I get what you said, Swami. Third, fact or theory. If it's not a fact yet, you have to tell me at which point it stops being a fact. So, Advaita Vedanta claims whatever is in this book, no matter how incredible it might sound, it's a fact right now. It's a fact right now. So if you say that, no, it's not a fact yet for me, I understand it up to this point, but that remains. I have to be enlightened, I have to get samadhi, I have to get this mystical experience, and then it will be. But remember, I said it's not a journey in time. If it's there, all of it, what they claim, it must be here and true for all of us right now. All of it is a fact, just now. So where does it stop being a fact? At which stage? You ask and we'll work it out. We'll see. Those are some of the best questions. Questions also are of three kinds. One is at the first stage, where I have to supply information. What is the teaching? The second stage, where it's argument. You have a problem with it. You raise it, and I'll try to answer and convince you. Persuasive. And the third stage is the most interesting, where you don't need information. You don't need persuading, but you want the teacher to make it real for you, so that the benefits start flowing immediately. And it's possible, actually. And that kind of question is the most valuable kind of question. So that's what we will do in the satsang sessions. Yes. All right. So we will, every day, we will chant the Manisha Panchakam. And please come. Nirmala ji? Seema ji. Yes, please come. Those who can, you can follow. Just bring the microphone down a little. No, let it be. Bring the microphone down. Yeah.
Om Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Jagrat Swapna Sushuptishu Sputatara Ya Samvidujrumbate Ya Brahmadipipili Tanushu Prota Jagat Sakshini Saivaham Nacha Drishyavastviti Dridha Prajnapi Yasyasti Chet Chandalostu Satudvijostu Gurire Keshamani Mama Brahmaivahamidam Jagatcha Sakalam Chit सर्वं चैतदविद्यया त्रिगुणया शेषं मया कल्पितम् इत्थं यस्य दृढामतिः सुखतरे नित्ये परे निर्मले चाण्डालोऽस्तु सतु द्विजोऽस्तु गुरुरित्येषा मनीषा मम शश्वन्नश्वरमेव विश्वमखिलं निश्चित्य वाचा गुरोः नित्यं ब्रह्म निरन्तरं विमृशता निर्व्याजशान्तात्मना भूतं भाति च दुष्कृतं प्रदहता संविन्मये पावके प्रारब्धाय समर्पितं स्ववपुरीत्येषा मनीषा मम या तिर्यं नरदेवताभिरहमेत्यन्तःस्फुटा गृह्यते यद्भासा हृदयाक्षदेव विषया भान्ति स्वतो चेतनाः तां भास्यैः पिहितार्कमण्डलनिभां स्फूर्तिं सदा भावयन् योगी निवृतमानसो हि गुरुरित्येषा मनीषा मम यत्सौख्याम्बुधितो देशलेशत इमे शक्रादयो निर्वृता यच्चित्ते नितरां प्रशान्तकलने तद्वा मुनिर्निर्वृतः यस्मिन् नित्यसुखाम्बुधौ गलितधीः ब्रह्मैव न ब्रह्मवेत् यः कश्चित् स सुरेन्द्रवन्दितपदो नूनं मनीषा मम इति श्रीमच्छङ्करभगवतः कृतौ मनीषा पञ्चकं सम्पूर्णम् ॐ सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु हरिः ॐ तत्सत्.
Very good.